Hey, what's going on, guys? Let's jump into the S&P today. Let's kind of recover what happened today. Um, I wouldn't say it was anticlimactic. We did have a good trade today at AMD. If you guys saw AMD, I ended up taking calls on a lower time frame, right? I did think that we were kind of flagging here on the daily off of the 9/21 EMA, right? We were initially pulling back into this, and we ended up having a pretty nice move. That move up to 153. That wick is where I capitalized and took a majority of everything off, right? If you guys take a look here, I have the opening or the closing print marked with this little white line here, as you guys can see. So as we kind of sold down, we kind of, I don't want to say swept underneath. It wasn't like anything crazy, but we did kind of sweep underneath the orb low, the 15-minute orb low here, and then we obviously started to push back up, right? I didn't take calls here. What I did is I waited for it to get close to this opening print, and then what did we do, right? We ended up having kind of like this little formation here, and I'm going to draw this pretty poorly, so just bear with me. We kind of had a flag form out here, if you will, so I ended up taking calls in this general area. I was going to risk pretty much the candle closure on the daily, but I guess tentatively speaking, I was going to risk 149.23. I felt like it was a pretty good risk to reward there. It was about 1.5, and I was hoping that we can get a pop back up into this resistance zone from 153 to 155, hence the 155C. And we got a really nice pop, right? I mean, take a look at the volume here. Volume was completely dead from when I took the position, so that natural increase in Vega from FOMC plus IV kicking in ramped these calls. But just from entry, obviously we got a $2. I guess we can round it, right? We can say a 2.5 to 2.8. Either way, right around 2% move on the underlying itself from the FOMC rate decision, right? And obviously that was a zero point 0.5, so pretty interesting, right? I think a lot of people, and pretty much the consensus was 0.25, so we're high or cutting at a rather rapid rate for our first announcement. Where we go from here, I assume we continue to ease, but this doesn't look good long term, right? We're now, I mean, I think we're in a recession, but this is a recessionary environment now, in my opinion. But we do have elections coming up. We obviously still have a lot of time between now and November. And we did have expiration today. We have OPEX coming up on Friday. We technically do have a window of weakness that is now open for the next 2 weeks, right? So until October 7th, there is an opportunity for bears to capitalize just as positions begin to shift now until the next expiration, or OPEX, I should say, which is in mid-October. Now, this window could give us opportunity, and I just want to emphasize that really quickly. Like, we shouldn't be afraid of the downside coming here. Obviously, if you would like to trade the downside, be my guest. There's a couple charts that I think provide the best value for that, but overall, I'm just looking to go long off of that, and I'll show you guys the S&P and QQQ here in a second. But yeah, this was a great trade here. This was about 60%. SoFi ended up being a really nice play as well. Unfortunately, I didn't actually see the percent it went to. I was only down to runners here, and my position was taken from, I think it was back here on Friday, and we were able to capitalize on the movement from this day all the way to the top of the gap there, where majority of profits were taken in this general range. And then today, obviously, we had that big spike up to 857, which cleared the gap. It was pretty damn close, guys. Pretty damn close, right? That's as good as close as you can get. I think those contracts went over 600% or 700%, something crazy. Like I said, it didn't really matter to me that much because I was already down to basically nothing on those. But overall, every trade that I had entered had already had majority of profits taken off, if not closed the position early. Nike, Hood, Shop, I took half off. TSM, I took half off, right? Just a lot of trades that have finally, it feels like I finally caught my momentum, right? After the TSM loss, I also took that Kava loss. That was more of like I was kind of shaken from TSM. I really didn't need to stop out of that one, but this ended up trading the target very nicely had I just held that. But overall, I feel like I'm in a good groove right now. So congrats if you guys have been taking any of the trades that I've been doing. A lot of these have worked, and I feel like I have a good groove now. But to tie back into the market itself, if you guys are not really big downside traders, there's no real reason to force those trades. If you need to, I would just recommend staying patient because this doesn't look good, right? On the S&P here, or SPY, we obviously on Tuesday crack through the all-time high. I don't really know if this was a sweep. I guess you could, I don't know, say this is a sweep because in theory it did break above that and close below. But today was a much larger sweep, right, where we ended up breaking above it by a decent amount, broke through Tuesday's high for sure, and it might have trapped bulls. But the main thing I care about is the print here on the daily, right? This is not a good print. I would say this is a shooting star, and this is a liquidity sweep over the all-time high, and it's increasing on volume as well. Albeit, let's just talk about this, it's not higher than some of these higher lows that have caught that have really pushed us into that all-time high, but it is something to be weary of. Now, does it mean you automatically go short? No, I wouldn't say that, right? It just kind of means put your radar up, be aware that there could be some potential downside here, and you don't have to trade the S&P for this. There's charts out there that are weak. You can definitely take advantage of that, and right, I would just wanted to emphasize that I do think that this is going to be coming down. If you guys remember, I think it was on Monday, we had those signature prints at 558.90. So the close, if you will, right around Thursday's close, right, just in this general area. So we could get a bounce off of that, depending if they've continued to bid that level. Maybe we get something like this, or we end up hitting that and then retesting this old all-time high and then continuing to sell down. Either way, I think we're going to keep going down. I think we are going to come down to this 20 EMA here on the daily, right around 555.32. That's just my opinion. I do think this has a date back with this old lower high that turned support, right? And I think there's just a lot of liquidity and a lot of buyers that are bidding here. Obviously, sellers are going to play a big part in this, and if they can continue this through today's low. But I do think we have a date with the 20, right? If we do break through the 20, I still think this would be healthy. I think a lot of people would be very concerned. You should see a lot of stuff on Twitter that, oh, SPY broke the 20-day. This thing's going to keep going down. This is the new bear market. You're going to see a lot of those posts. I still think this is a healthy, structured weekly chart, monthly chart. If we can obviously kind of foresee that in your mind prior to it actually happening, I think this is still going to be healthy, right? I think that even under the 20, my buy zone personally is somewhere in this spot here, right? If we kind of just draw these little lines out, I'm going to draw two of them. This is where I expected the higher low to be, right? Remember, we had the higher low here off of this progression gap. This was our low, higher low, and I think we get a third higher low. I do think it's going to come somewhere in this second green box, which is from 548 to 544. So if you guys want me to draw that, I know you guys like me when I draw. We'll maybe get this, maybe get that. Breakdown, maybe a retest, and then we're going to get this, right? Something like that. And then I think we make our way back up, right? Something like that, if you will. Now, this is the area that I would look to buy if I'm on the S&P, but as you guys know, I'm a bigger fan of QQQ. This has a lot more upside. If you guys didn't already know, SPY's already at its all-time high, whereas QQQ still has a lot more room to go, right? And this has broadly led the market up through much of 2024, and big help due to the AI names or AI theme craze that we saw in specifically semiconductors. But I talked to you guys about this yesterday, not to be overzealous trying to trade this spot here, right? 480 to 474. This was once again our bearish progression gap and just the general range of supply where we had this downtrending trend line, right? We had our old lower high here. And I wasn't a big fan of buying up here. I wanted to see us if we can obviously hit this spot and sell and pull back. Now, this is a little bit different than SPY or the S&P, where we didn't touch this progression gap on the SPY, but on QQQs we pulled down and basically bottomed out at the bottom of the progression gap. Naturally, my thinking is that this comes down and sells to the top of the progression gap, and then we get our third higher low in this general area around 459.66, and then we continue up, right? And that's kind of what I'm looking at. And I'm going to be patient for that. I'm not too keen on trying to short the market right now, especially, knowing that we do have an election November, right? It doesn't make sense to me, and I'm trying not to let that dictate things too much, but I'm also letting chart structure talk to me. There's also too quick to be completely bearish on this, right? There's still an opportunity from bulls, sorry, I had to sneeze, to be able to catch another higher low here. And until that happens, I'm not going to be super crazy. Unless volume is showing something different, then I do have an ace up my sleeve. If you guys did see, I'm looking at Apple here. And this doesn't look the best, right? I mean, this is a general area here where I was talking about, where we had this gap down from the demand of the iPhone 16. And remember, news pieces are going to happen a lot when you're in distribution. But we did have this essentially the spinning top here back on August 29th. We started to sell, right? We've had consistent daily sequences of lower highs or bear flags, whatever you guys want to call them. And then we had the gap down, and today we pushed up and retested this gap, right, around 221. I did say I added 4 more, so those 4 contract starters that I had for November's that I haven't touched, ideally, right, I had added these up here, but it is what it is, right? I didn't want to keep adding into positions. This is also right around the time when I had TSM, right? So you got to think from my perspective, I didn't want to just like have a huge position in Apple short and a huge position in TSM long. It would have contradicted, and it would have been pretty emotional to kind of like figure out which one to ride. I know dispersion is a thing, and I think Apple will disperse from the market, but it just you gotta roll with me on that one. Trust me. But now, right, this kind of seems like the next best spot where I'm going to add, or I did add, kind of. I didn't get the perfect data. I didn't get it right off this this rejection here, but just this general vicinity, right? Remember, I'm trading daily candles. I'm not really trading anything else, daily slash weekly, and I'll probably risk this 225.50 level, 225.48, which was the last little rejection spot that sent us for a new low here. But yeah, I took another 4 contract out on this, so I have 8 total. I'll probably do 2 more if things look decent to go to a 10 contract swing trade. I won't exceed that, so that way if it is like a loss, it won't be that crazy. But if it's a win, right, just kind of in this general spot, we'll just take it from where it's currently at. And that's a $35 move. I'll take that. Or if I end up getting stopped out, let's just say it breaks slightly above, right? It's like a $3 loss. Of course, plays a different kind of amount in percent loss or win based on options. Hope you know that, so it won't be a strict $3 loss. We'll see what it ends up being. But yeah, I kind of like the risk on this one. So we'll see what ends up happening tomorrow. I wouldn't mind a gap up, honestly, kind of into this like 225 or 222 spot, just so I can add those last 2 contracts, and then obviously it's just a time game at that point of letting these larger time frame candles close. But I'd like to see this now do something like this, right? Maybe let's redraw this actually, where it kind of pushes up, hits, starts to sell, obviously lower and lower, right? We want to see it start to use these previous supports as resistance and then continue down. I still think this zone, once it cracks, just this general area will move very quickly to the downside because there hasn't been a lot of support built here. We do have this higher low that caught, but there's really no build out of any bids, right? There's not really like consolidation that's been forming out along this that can have a lot of buyers have orders just set to catch price. I think it will move very quickly from 213 down to 200. So that's kind of my goal here, is that this moves through that zone very quickly. But we'll have to just see, right? It's kind of in time's hand and the market's hand right now. But Apple looks good for a short. As I said, QQQ is probably my preference here, still for that long. Right off of 459, we'll just round that to 460. I do think that this continues to sell down, right, and we'll get our third higher low in this general range, and then I would look to add that, risk this this higher low here. Remember, if it does sell down, I'm still going to be a little weary of a potential sweep, so I might hold that. We'll see what it ends up doing if it ends up selling to this higher low. But I want to show you guys SPY as well, just because a lot of you guys always ask me about SPY. Kind of the same thing, right? Kind of the same thing. But we'll see what ends up happening. I do think that we have a visit here with 460, or I'm sorry, 554.87, 556 if we just round that. I'm sorry, what the fuck am I saying? 555. I saw the red line and I like rounded it up an extra dollar. But yeah, just to move down to 554.87, this green line here, right? I do think we have a visit with that. If we break under the 20-day, I think we're going to come even further down. I think we can come right down to this, the top of the progression gap, or either that or the bottom. Either way, I still think that we're going to find our way holding above this higher low here. But if you guys want to participate short, yeah, I know this is a good start. This looks like it could come down, right? And I believe it does. But I won't be participating on S&P or QQQ shorts. If anything, as I said, Apple will probably be the vehicle to the downside for me. Now, as for TSM, if you guys didn't know, like I already said, I said it 100 times. I feel like I have. I took half off here as we made our way to 175. We're now flirting once again with that 165 to 168 zone. There was some bearish flow that came in today. I'm not a big flow guy. What was it? It was October 18th, 160 puts. 1.13 million came in at 14 large orders, right? So repeat orders kind of coming through for the same exact strike, same expiration. So it looks like somebody's betting that this sells through the zone that we have here and comes down into this 160 spot. Still holds above what? Our higher low here, right? But it is going to break this zone. That's what they're betting on. So we'll kind of keep our eyes on this one. It is November contracts that I have half a position on, so I'm still willing to add into those. And I might be lenient with this. I might be lenient. Remember last time I was I wasn't strict per se, but I let this come all the way down to this this progression gap here. I don't think we're gonna necessarily come lower than that. So if we can catch a bid above this 156, whatever this higher low is, I'll be willing to add into this, right? I'm not keeping it super strict off 165, 168 now that I have half a position left, right? And then shop, obviously, we'll kind of do like a scan. I just want to go over kind of like my market view so far. Took some profits today off 77. I had this obviously marked. This was the gap fill from the gap here, or sorry, the close to the open up here. I kind of removed the gap itself because we've already kind of traded through that. But really good trade here. Remember, we took these here on the pullback on the progression gap here, and it's had a pretty solid move all the way through. So not much to update there. Maybe if we get a pullback and hold the top of the progression gap again rather than the bottom, I might add into these again, right? Something like this, so we can get a pop and then start to move through. But we'll do a scan a little bit more. Probably later tonight. I haven't really looked at charts too much, but I just wanted to give you guys a broad view. I do think that the market is going to sell off a little bit more, right? And I'm trying to keep everybody's wits about them to you can either participate, but kind of keep that in the back of your head, or right, just don't participate in the short side. You don't have to be forced to do that. Honestly, I feel like it's easier to just wait for long side setups and just kind of master one side of market conditions. But long story short, guys, yeah, a big rate cut today. We'll see how that ends up playing out later down the line. But yeah, I'm just going to be waiting for those pullbacks and just being really patient with that because I do still believe, guys, I still believe we get a nice move end of year, right? Probably a pullback into that expiration in October, mid-October. But we are in that window until October 7th, as I said. So just kind of keep your eyes out. Just be wary of it. Who knows, right? Maybe we can have a bounce into the election, and then the election is another vol event that sells it off, right? And then we have another opportunity to long that dip into January, right? So there's a lot of opportunity still around. It's just about finding the charts that you are most comfortable with, charts that have the structure that align with it. And I told you guys, some of my favorite trades are when sentiment hasn't really caught on to the chart yet. So if we really start to sell off on some of these names, but we're still holding above the higher low here, and we're seeing buyers show up in the same way that we saw back here, right? Remember with the accumulation here on QQQ, or let's go to QQQ, it's a little bit easier to see. I didn't want this video to be super long, but I swear to God, we were one of the first people to talk about this, right? The 3 daily bar sequence here, right? Remember the equal lows, it swept that. There was a large buyer here, and then the biggest buyer came in here, right? We saw this on the 4-hour, we saw it on the daily. Obviously, the daily looked more bearish, but on the 4-hour, we saw each one of these new lows being accumulated, right? This was that 3 lower low. Then we had that incredible markup on low volume that really confused a lot of people, but we knew it was happening, right? Remember, we went long either here or here. It was like, I think it was 468 or 458 or something like that. And then remember, it had that major move up to 480, right? And then obviously pulled back. I missed this higher low, unfortunately, just because it felt like doom and gloom, but I shouldn't have fell for it. But long story short, once again, right, we can get this pullback here. And then obviously I think we keep going up. We still, in my opinion, go up to this 497 spot. So these are all opportunities, and I'm just trying to keep my wits about me and not let other people on Twitter, let people in here influence me. And if you guys think I'm wrong, don't let me influence you. I just speak my mind. I'm just trading a plan here, and I think the best thing you can do is just be patient, right? Be patient. and just wait, right? If you only master a couple setups and obviously trade certain structures, your risk is very well mitigated, your reward becomes very apparent, and it's easy to really mitigate losses if you have them, right? Or you can capitalize on pretty big wins on low size, or if you have heavy size, that's great too. But yeah, I just wanted to jump on here really quickly, kind of go over this. It's unfortunate. I know some of you guys, I just watched the chat on Tesla. I mean, this was a big one that I was watching today. Didn't play out at all. If anything, same thing. Or ended up kind of sweeping above 234.27. I don't know who it was in the chat said that they took a loss on this one. Biggest thing I can emphasize, guys, is once again patience. This never closed above 234.27. Even on the 5, right? I guess it technically did, but I don't really trade that, right? You have to get the pullback. And there's a reason I have that system kind of implemented in my brain, right? If it closed like this on high volume, yeah, I always wait for it to pull back, right? If I do take this, it's a starter. I'll take like 2 contracts, right? I'm not going to full port or do anything crazy or put 20% of my account in. I have to get that pullback, and it did pull back, right? It pulled back and closed right on this level, and the next candle opened below, right? And then it started to sell off, right? And this is kind of like a textbook sweep, and that's why, if you guys didn't know, why I trade like this, right? I have all my time frames up. I have 5, I have a 15, I have an hourly, I have a usually this is my daily here. But using your time frames together in tandem really helps, right? And especially during a volatile event where you know liquidity is waiting on one side, right? Waiting for either a sweep to sell and to people willing to buy the breakout. I'm always aware of that going into those events. So if I saw this break above on the 5, right, or if you're trading on a 1, God forbid, I would wait. Why not wait for the 15? And the 15 would have been your saving grace, right? And let's say theoretically, like let's go back, right? Let's say you didn't take that on the 15, you didn't wait for the candle there, but you jumped the gun here on the 5. This gave you a lower high, right? This sold back down and it retested here in a lower high, right? This didn't even get back above 234. That was your chance to cut there. So if you got that and then you ended up closing it right around here, right, that wouldn't have been that big of a loss. And that also ties into your expiration. That would have been a big loss because you're buying on high IV on the breakout during an event vol. Right? This is obviously event vol due to Powell speaking, so you have to think about that. You're buying extremely high premium contracts, and then it breaks down, right? And then it retests. If you're buying 0DT, that's going to be a big loss, and I'm sorry to say. So maybe think about it differently. Open up your expirations and grab something a little further out to protect that, just in case it does end up happening. Remember I said there shouldn't be a rush to make a ton of money that quickly. Those trades will come to you, I promise. But if you're trying to get this here and you're buying 0DT and you're full porting thinking that you can get, move all the way up to here, if you can't stomach that, you shouldn't be taking that trade. That's a crazy move. That's 5% in one day. You're not going to miss that. If you buy 2 weeks of time, percentage gain might not be as crazy, but it's still a really good gain. Just give yourself, a 5-minute close, pull back, hold of that level. Or give it a 15-minute candle, whatever it ends up being. Just give yourself some time, guys. I'm telling you guys, just play it smart. So yeah, I just wanted to go over that really quickly because I saw a couple of people talk about Tesla because it did the same thing as SPY, and I'm sure some people got caught on SPY as well. There's a reason I do the things I do, and I'm very patient with retests, and it's okay if you miss trades, right? Especially ones that aren't part of your system, ones that you don't plan for. And sometimes too, man, you'll see trades all the time break out and they never pull back. And that's not, it sucks to miss those, but sometimes it's not meant to be. That's okay. That's what protects you from losing. So, all right, I'm gonna wrap this one up, guys. This is about 25 minutes long, so I apologize. But yeah, just kind of an overall market view. We'll see what ends up happening tomorrow. Usually the day after, and then tomorrow's Thursday, right? So Thursday, Friday. Usually by the third day we'll kind of figure out how the market digests it. So by Friday I think we'll know if this is going to sell off and pull back a little bit deeper, or if this will mitigate here and then try to retest the all-time high. We'll see.